The truth always finds a way to come out. Doesn't matter how deeply it's buried or how carefully someone tries to hide it, sooner or later, it rises to the surface. For Conrad, that moment came like a sudden storm. 1 second, the world. It felt steady, and the next, it crashed into pieces when he learned something he was never supposed to hear. Jeremiah, the brother he trusted, had betrayed Belly, and not just Belly but him too. Asterisk, the summer had always been there as Conrad, Jeremiah, and Belly, tangled together in a web of memories built by the ocean waves. Midnight laughter and promises whispered under the stars. Two outsiders, they looked like the picture of innocence and warmth. 3 young hearts simply learning what it meant to grow up. But inside that beach house, the truth was far more complicated. Love was never equal, and hearts were never safe. Conrad had always been the quiet one. He carried himself like someone who knew the weight of the world far too early. A little too serious for his age, a little too protective of the people he loved. And at the center of that love was Belly. To him, she wasn't just another summer crush. She was the one constant in his messy, fragile world. Even when he held back, even when he stayed silent, his heart belonged to her. Jeremiah was different. Charming, playful, and reckless. He loved with a kind of wild energy that drew people in, Belly included. To her, Jeremiah was light when Conrad was shadows. He was laughter when Conrad was silence. And maybe that's why, in moments of weakness, she leaned on him. But what Conrad didn't know, what he couldn't even imagine, was that Jeremiah's smile was hiding a secret big enough to ruin them all. When Conrad first overheard the truth, it didn't feel real. The words hit him like cold water, shocking, impossible, unfair. He wanted to believe he'd misunderstood. He wanted to think it was gossip or a cruel mistake. But deep down, he knew. And that knowing burned through him like fire. Because Jeremiah hadn't just betrayed Belly, he had betrayed Conrad's trust. It's broken something that could never be pieced back together. The waves outside kept crashing, the same way they always had, as if nothing had changed. But inside Conrad, everything was shifting. His chest tightened, his thoughts spiraled, and the air in the room felt heavier with every breath. He could already see what this would do, how it would break Belly's heart, how it would rip their family in two, how it would make every summer after this one feel colder, emptier. And so, in that single moment, Conrad's summer ended. The light faded, the laughter died. All that was left was a choice. Stay silent and protect Belly from the truth, or confront Jeremiah, and finally let the storm break. Asterisk, it didn't happen with shouting. Didn't happen with Jeremiah confessing. In some dramatic scene, Noette slipped out quietly, almost carelessly, as if the truth wasn't strong enough to shake the earth beneath Conrad's feet. But it was. He was walking past the porch late one night when he heard voices carrying through the thin walls of the beach house. At first he didn't pay attention. He thought it was just Jeremiah laughing on the phone again, whispering sweet nothings to whoever was on the other side. But then Conrad caught Belly's name. He froze, his body turning to ice, as if the whole house had fallen silent, except for those words. She doesn't know, and she can't. If she finds out, it's over. Jeremiah's voice, low, guilty, almost trembling. Conrad's heart began pounding, his ears straining for more. His mind screamed at him to walk away, to pretend he hadn't heard, but he couldn't. He stayed. He listened. A pause. Then another voice, softer, female, not Belly's. Someone else.
Oh.
A stranger. You really care about her, don't you? But you're still here with me. The words cut deeper than any blade. Conrad's breath caught, his chest tightening as though he couldn't pull air into his lungs. His brother. His own brother. The one person he thought he could depend on. The one person he never imagined would cross this line. And Belly sweet. Innocent Belly, she had no idea. She was still smiling, still looking at Jeremiah like he was the boy who could give her the world. Conrad staggered back from the porch, his body numb, his thoughts racing in wild circles. He wanted to confront Jeremiah right then and there, to demand the truth, to force him to say it out loud. But the weight of it crushed him. This wasn't just about love anymore. This was betrayal layered with lies, brother against brother. And Conrad could already see the cracks forming in the world they had built together as he stood there under the dark sky. The stars above him blurred by tears he refused to shed. Conrad realized that nothing would ever be the same again. The beach house that once felt like home now felt like a trap, a place where secrets lingered in every corner. He clenched his fists, his jaw tight, trying to hold himself together, but inside, something was breaking. He whispered to himself, voice barely audible in the night air. Jeremiah, how could you? The truth had found him, and there was no turning back. Conrad didn't explode with rage. He didn't storm into Jeremiah's room or shout Belly's name into the night. Instead, the weight of the truth pressed him down in. Silence. A silence so loud it echoed through every corner of his chest. He carried it alone like a stone tied to his heart, dragging him deeper with every breath. In the mornings he pretended. He sat at the kitchen table while Belly poured orange juice, smiling at Jeremiah like nothing had happened. He nodded when Jeremiah cracked jokes, forced a smirk when Belly teased him, and kept his eyes fixed anywhere but on his brother's face. But behind those small gestures, Conrad was unraveling. Every laugh Belly gave Jeremiah cut into him because he knew it was built on a lie. Every casual touch between them was a reminder of the truth Conrad couldn't unhear. He wanted to scream, to tell Belly everything, to shatter the illusion and free her from the betrayal wrapped around her. But then he saw her smile, the way she still believed in summer love. In Jeremiah's devotion, in the safety of their little world, and Conrad couldn't bring himself to take it away from her. Not yet. The silence became a war inside him. At night, when the house was quiet and everyone else had fallen asleep, Conrad would lie awake, staring at the ceiling. His mind replayed the words over and over. You really care about her, don't you? But you're still here with me. Over and over until they burned into his skull. He felt anger. Yes, but beneath the anger was grief. Not just for Belly, who didn't know she was living in a lie, but for himself. For the brotherhood he thought was unbreakable. For the boy he thought Jeremiah was and wasn't. Some nights he walked to the beach, alone, his hands buried in his pockets, the waves crashing louder than the thoughts in his head. The ocean had always been a place of comfort, but now it mocked him. It reminded him of all the summers before, when they were just kids who thought the world was simple, when love hadn't yet turned into betrayal. He wondered if things could ever go back or if this wound would scar them forever. The hardest part wasn't the betrayal itself. It was the choice Conrad now faced. Protect Belly from the pain, or expose Jeremiah and watch everything, every bond, every fragile thread of love collapse. And deep down, Conrad knew there was no choice that wouldn't hurt, no choice that wouldn't leave someone bleeding. The silence couldn't last forever. Conrad knew it. Every day felt like walking through a house filled with broken glass. He moved carefully, quietly, but no matter what, he was going to cut himself. Jeremiah's laugh echoed too easily, Belly's trust shone too brightly, and Conrad's patience frayed like rope pulled too tight. Something had to give. It started in small ways. A sharp look across the dinner table, a reply that carried more edge than it should have. Moments where Jeremiah caught Conrad's eyes and, for a split second, seemed to wonder if his brother knew. That uncertainty alone was gasoline on Conrad's fire. One night the tension cracked. The three of them sat in the living room, Belly tucked against Jeremiah's shoulder while Conrad lingered near the window, his body half turned away. The glow of the TV filled the room, but Conrad wasn't watching. His fists tightened at his sides, nails digging into his palms. As Jeremiah brushed a hand over Belly's hair like he was worthy of her, Conrad couldn't stay silent anymore. He cleared his throat, voice low, strained. You ever gonna tell? Heard the truth? The words weren't shouted, but they hit harder than any scream. Belly looked up, confused, her brow furrowing. Jeremiah froze, his smile faltering for the first time all summer. The room seemed to shrink, the air heavier. Every second, stretching out like an eternity. Jeremiah swallowed, his lips parting as if to speak, but no words came. Belly's eyes darted between them, searching, trying to understand the sudden shift. In the air, Conrad didn't move closer. He didn't need to. His voice carried enough weight. Secrets don't stay buried. Not here. Not with us. The silence that followed was worse than any argument. It was the pause before the storm, the space where the truth stood waiting, ready to tear through all of them. Belly's confusion turned into unease. Jeremiah's face hardened, guilt flickering just beneath the surface. And Conrad stood steady, but inside, he was ready for the world to break, because the time for silence was over. The storm didn't break with shouting. It didn't need to. Sometimes, silence is louder than rage, and Conrad had mastered silence better than anyone. After the living room moment, the house changed. Belly didn't understand what Conrad's words meant, not fully, but she felt the shift. She noticed the way Conrad's eyes lingered on Jeremiah, sharp and unyielding, the way his voice dropped when he spoke. Every word measured like it carried hidden meanings. She sensed the distance growing between the brothers, though neither of them explained it. Jeremiah, on the other hand, was unraveling. He laughed louder, joked more often, tried harder to keep the house filled with his easy charm, but his eyes betrayed him. Every time Conrad entered the room, Jeremiah stiffened, as if waiting for the blow to finally land. He avoided being alone with him, avoided his stare, but Conrad was relentless. He didn't need to speak. The silence did the speaking for him. Night. Conrad's thoughts kept circling back to Belly. She was the innocent one in all of this. The one who didn't deserve the wreckage waiting for her. He wondered if telling her would save her or destroy her. He wondered if silence was protection or if it was just another form of betrayal. And the longer he waited, the more unbearable it became. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in fading orange, Conrad found Jeremiah on the porch. For the first time in days, it was just the two of them. No distractions, no escapes. The air was thick with everything left unsaid. Conrad leaned against the railing, his gaze fixed on the horizon. His voice was calm, but it carried a weight. That pressed down like thunder. You think you can keep this up forever? Jeremiah shifted uncomfortably, his usual grin gone. He tried to reply, but Conrad cut him off before the words could form. I don't need to say it. You already know. The silence stretched between them, more dangerous than any argument. Jeremiah's jaw tightened, his chest rising and falling. Quickly, and for the first time, Conrad saw his brother not as the golden boy everyone adored, but as someone cornered, scared, guilty. The porch light flickered on as the sun disappeared, casting both of them in shadow. Neither moved. Neither looked away. It was no longer just about Belly. It was about blood. It's about loyalty. It's about the kind of betrayal that rewrites everything you thought you knew about family. And Conrad wasn't going to let it go. Asterisk, the house had never felt so quiet. It wasn't the peaceful kind of quiet, the kind you fall asleep to with waves rolling in the background. No, this silence was heavy, suffocating, as if the walls themselves were bracing for what was about to happen. Belly was the first to notice it. She came into the kitchen with her hair still damp from the ocean, humming to herself, only to find both brothers sitting at the table. Conrad leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, his eyes locked on Jeremiah like a predator watching prey. Jeremiah sat forward, restless, tapping his fingers against the wood, his leg bouncing under the table. Neither spoke, but the air between them was thick enough to choke on. Belly hesitated. What's going on? She asked softly. Neither answered. Conrad's gaze didn't move from Jeremiah, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade. Tell her. Jeremiah flinched. Conrad, tell her. The words weren't loud, but they carried more force than if he had screamed them. Belly's eyes darted between them, her confusion turning to unease. She took a step closer. Tell me what? Jeremiah's mouth opened, then closed again. Chest rose and fell like he was drowning, his charm gone, his confidence stripped away. For the first time, Belly saw him not as the boy who always had an answer, but as someone cornered by the truth. Conrad pushed back his chair, standing slowly, his presence filling the room. His tone was low, steady, but it shook with the weight of betrayal. She deserves to know, Jeremiah. Wow, every lie you've told her, every secret you've buried, ends now. Allie's heart began to race. What are you talking about? She demanded, her voice trembling. Jeremiah's eyes glossed with panic. He reached for Belly's hand, desperate, pleading. Belly, please. It's not what you think. But Conrad cut in, his voice sharp, final. It's exactly what you think. The words hit harder than any storm. Belly froze, her hands slipping out of Jeremiah's grasp, her eyes wide with disbelief. The room seemed to tilt, the ground falling out from under her. Jeremiah's shoulders slumped, his silence admitting what he couldn't speak. For a long moment, nobody moved. The only sound was the faint crash of waves outside, mocking them with their endless rhythm. And just like that, the world they had built together, the summers, the memories, the fragile dream of love shattered in a single breath.